Now today, this is one of my favorite things to do is to actually just defer and shut up and watch, and I'll interject a whole lot when you guys least expect it, and I'll just repeat what you say like I said it. But I'm going to kind of pass over to Kai because I know you and Krystal work together a lot, and so many of the things that she's doing are awesome and are keeping her team way up there in units, way up there in volume. And the part that I'm passionate about is they're doing a ton of VA loans, a ton of active duty. And I know a lot of the people on our team really, really well. And she and I have been kind of bouncing ideas back and forth for years. So I want to hear from your perspective though, Kai, because you know her a whole lot better than I do. You talk to her all the time. Just take the reins a little bit and you guys share what other LOs could potentially do that Krystal's doing that seems to be working really well.
Yeah. And the thing is that I think people have to understand that everything's done in steps, right? Is this slated for an hour, by the way? I just want to make sure I'm clocking.
I gave us 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Okay. All right.
Well,
so,
okay.
Want, 40 minutes. Okay. Like everything is in stages, right? And I think what's good is that people are at different stages of their career. So I think we can address a little bit of everybody. I've been working with Krystal when did we first meet? 2015, 16, 17? I think like
19. At the end of 19 is when I signed up.
Oh, that's right. It was actually right before pandemic. So when I was working, so it was 2019 and it was she had been primarily doing refis and it wasn't because it was a refi market. Like the pandemic hadn't hit yet. It was just, that's because what she was doing. She's doing like 13, 14 units a month. We started working together and like, I would say to date, she's among the top 2 of my fastest accelerating clients that I worked with. She shot to like 30 units within 6 months, and we did it in stages. And I think, those stages are important. And the first thing that we did was we said, the first thing that obviously she wanted to switch to a purchase market, but it wasn't even that. I mean, I think naturally she's talented in marketing and sales, but the first thing that we looked at is, do you have the ability to process more loans and what does your systems look like? She kind of had sort of a half-assed team and we had to rebuild your team, right, Krystal? And that was a lot of it. I mean, you spent probably 6 months just building out your team and putting in the processes. And let's talk about that first 6 months that happens, because it doesn't really matter where you are in your business, whether you're doing 1 loan a month, 5 loans a month, 10 loans a month. Usually your capacity issues is that you're spending too much time in your files. You're spending too much time agonizing your files and you're not letting a system or a team close your files, right? And that was probably the first 6 months to a year that gave you the capacity to do what you could do.
Yeah. So I would say when I got into this business, I was very ignorant to all things. Like I didn't know marketing. I didn't know how to set up a CRM. I started out in a refi sweatshop and they kind of like look down on you if you met with agents. It was this weird dynamic. So I feel like I've always just done the business wrong, never really had mentorship or help. And then when I went to a large company, I saw these big producers, and at the time to get into Scotsman's Guide, you had to do 25 million. And I was like, wait, people do that much on a regular basis? I thought I was cool when I hit 1 million in 1 month, So just, I kind of learned everything the hard way. And that's what I'm excited about this call and excited about. Even the team I work with is trying to help people, skip the 10 years that it took me to get my business going. But yeah, so I started coaching with you because I wanted to go to that kind of next level. I was starting to pick up a little bit on units, but I knew I wasn't where I needed to be. I didn't have any systems or processes. I didn't have really consistent help. I had like a shared LOA. It took me a while to get that because my company didn't provide that till you hit a certain number, I think like 20 units a month or something. So I always did it really, really slow and wrong. So then I signed up with coaching, and the thing that I think helped me the most with you was you had the systems and processes, and then you told me how to hire. And I was so scared to hire. I think everyone is, because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to pay that person, or can you trust that person? And so I hired, and then that's once I had a little bit of help is when I was able to scale. And before the pandemic, I still did, I don't remember, a couple hundred units. And then thankfully for your processes, because I was working 15 hours a day, didn't have a team, didn't have help, had 4 kids at home. It was madness. But the processes that you had helped me kind of get that clean. And then you helped me hire. Like, remember, I would come to you like, hey, what about this person? What questions should I ask? What am I looking for? I actually threw my little brother into it. He had left his job and I was like, if anyone's going to give this 110%, it's him, but he didn't know how to even like type on a computer. He like chicken pecked, but he helped me with the customer service piece too. Cause during the pandemic, everyone was doing refis. I didn't, I did about 25% refis. Because they took 60 to 90 days and I probably pissed off more clients than I got clients. So that kind of kicked off the team. And then now I've had a really, really good team for the past couple of years. And I've learned a lot. I can tell you all the things
And
to do.
but there's like there's a reason for all this. Because number one, when it comes to capacity, in March 2021, Krystal funded 91 units as a personal team. And that's just ridiculous, the amount of units. I mean, there are branches that will struggle to fund 91 units. She funded 91 as a personal team. And so the systems were there. But like fast forward to today. Okay, when we look at Krystal's production, Krystal did in 2022 a really, really tough market. She did 400 units. Now, what's really crazy about that, especially for the people that complain about either inventory issues or smallness of the market, is that Krystal's in Colorado Springs. She only did about 90 of her units in Colorado Springs. And what she did was she ventured out into different markets to really expand her limitations. And part of it was accidental, right? But it was like kind of unintentionally intentional, because it started out with just some agents that had some leads in different states. But what happened there was everybody that worked with you, every agent, every title agent loved your service. I mean, the bottom line is that if you have good service, people are going to refer you, Yeah. And you were able to pick up basically another 300 something units in 4 different states just because of your reputation and your systems alone. And I think that that's very, very underappreciated, is when you have really, really great service, you're going to get that type of referral business from agents, And tell us a little bit about like the title agents that referred you business in the different states, because that was big, and how you went after title agents.
Yeah. So like you said, I got into the different states by working with agents that were in those states. I worked with a large real estate team, and then I had a couple of people here in Colorado that we were a team at separate companies that we would send deals like, hey, I can't get this one done. Can you? Or, hey, your rate's better, that kind of thing. So they weren't licensed in those other states where I'm licensed in all 50 at the time. So they were like, hey, can you take over these states? And then they kind of ran like the Colorado side. So it's a really cool, unique opportunity, but that opportunity went away, but I was still able to keep those, like you said, those states through reputation, through repetition as well, and then through listing agents and title companies. So in Tennessee, I had a title company that I was like at a lunch, and she calls and says, oh my gosh, this was the best experience. I didn't know who she was. I thought it was an agent or something. And I want to work with you. I want to introduce you to people. And I'm like, sounds amazing. I don't know who you are, but you were sent from heaven. Let's talk, so we like did a Zoom with the team. And then she introduced me to some big producers in Tennessee and Texas, because she had a title company there as well. And she just said, you guys do it so different. I think because we're in such a fast-paced environment here, I noticed some of the other states aren't. Like North Carolina, for example, their title companies are very slow. And here, I'm boom, 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 boom. So I think they liked that. And they just like the constant updates and the communication. And something that we, I think, fail to do sometimes is to keep the title companies in the loop. They want to know what's going on with the loan too, because they don't want to hear come closing day, oh wait, that's not even closing and no one told me. Like they want to know, oh gosh, the loan got approved, amazing, the appraisal's been awesome, the loan's clear. Like they want to know those things. So I think that helped. And then just here locally, I've worked with a lot of agents, title agents here, of course, and same thing. They're like, we'll tell you who to work with and who not to work with. Like we know everyone, so get with us and we'll tell you what agents to avoid for whatever reason. So I didn't tap into that when I should have, but I know now what to do. So, but they know everyone, right? So get a good sales rep too at a title company, because once refis come, they're going to love you. They're going to want your business, but in turn, they'll introduce you to other agents, to other loan officers, even if you have, if that's something you want to build. And that's something that you can capitalize on a lot better than I did.
And that's a trade-off, right? Because when the refi boom hits, that's when they're going to make their money. And so one of the things that we always talk about is like updating your title reps, updating your closers and everything all along the transaction, because they're ignored the whole time. So you're making friends with them, you're updating them. And at the very, very end, it's a very simple script. I ask them too, just like we ask your agents, you ask your closers, and you're asking your title agents, like, how do you like my service? And they would give you these rave reviews. And a really simple script is thank you so much. Can I ask you a question? I'm sure you work with a lot of agents, the good ones and the bad ones. Which agents right now are struggling with their lending process, with the loans that they just did, with the lender that they just did, that you could think you can introduce me to so that I can be their new lender? Right. And then because they want to improve their relationships with their real estate agents. And you picked up a lot of agents that way.
Yeah. It was a huge blessing for sure.
So you guys have talked a lot about, the service and the scripts, but just nuts and bolts. What do you do that's that drastically different than the other people? I mean, is it communication every single day? Is it once, twice, 3 times a week? I mean, what's the service level that you're doing that you don't think anybody else, or do you think most people aren't doing, as far as the service level?
That's a good question. I think one thing that really is helpful is once I had the team, because before I had the team, my call log would fill up every day 100 calls, and I literally worked sun up to sundown, and it was just miserable. So once I formed the team, I was able to be a lot more responsive, get back to clients and agents a lot faster. And I think sometimes we get too busy, or loan officers sometimes are lazy and they don't want to pre-approve someone on a Saturday. But I had influence that was like, you know what, that phone call is money, answer it. So that's the habit I got into. And then I got my team in the same habit. So I think one thing is providing the service. I hate to say work 24/7. I hate to say around the clock. You can have boundaries with that. But at the same time, like there are circumstances where someone flew in on a Saturday morning and they want to look at houses that evening. Do you want to make $5,000 or not? So my team is trained that if we have the capacity, we just do it, and we rotate weekends. So, one person's on call one weekend and the next person's off. They know that they're off. They don't have to worry about it. The one that's on call, if they go to lunch, they better have their laptop with them. So I think that's a part. And then I just trained my team really well. They had training from me and from the team that I used to be a part of, the loan officers there, and we had an amazing processor there. So they had a lot of hands-on training, which is crucial, because the last thing you want to do is get a bad pre-approval out with your name on it. So by always closing deals, 99% of them on time. I can't remember the last time I had a turn down. It's been years if I've had one. So I think just really knowing your guidelines, knowing your stuff, implementing the customer service piece, doing all the things that you need to do as far as like what your job should be, but doing it at just a different service level. And just remembering too, like the clients are your business. Like they're not disposable. Like that's your income. And same with agents. I mean, sometimes we get annoyed with agents. We're like, oh, this one's so high maintenance. And it's like, if they don't fit you, then maybe find someone else. But at the same time, like it's kind of like if you work at a department store and you have a boss, like that's your boss, So I think it's just providing the service. And I try to treat every client as if it were like my family member. I take that super personally, sometimes too personally. I get a little too passionate about it, but I'm like, this is my brother buying a house. Like, how would I treat him during this process? So just always really giving that exceptional service. And then, yes, following up, keeping them updated. And I mean, trust me, I learned the hard way on all of this stuff. I really, really did. I learned a lot of valuable lessons of things I did wrong that I needed to do better. And again, we all know communication is key. And with the technology we have now, there's no excuse to not update your agents on every file every few days.
It's not the first time I've had a conversation with Krystal, but there is an X factor that I think everybody needs when they build a team. And it's do you have a Scottie Pippen to your Michael Jordan, right? So one of the things I see in every team is that you have the leader, who's the loan officer here, and everybody who's on the team, whether it's an LOA or you may have like 10 people on your team, it's almost like it's like this hierarchy and then subordinate relationship. You have to have at least one person that cares about your pipeline, your business as much as you. Mm-hmm. Even if you have one LOA, you have to feel like they're going to live, breathe, and die for you. They will pick up the phone. They will take personal responsibility and take that thing to close. And it gets even worse when you have a bigger team. So Krystal will have anywhere between 5 to 7 people on her team at any given time, but she has a right-hand person, and I think it's your brother now, who cares about as much as the business as anybody else, because I think all of us always say, if I could duplicate myself. So I think the most important thing is to duplicate yourself first and then go from there. Because I had the same thing in my coaching company. Robert, I have 9 coaches, but of all my coaches, Robert's the one that no matter where I am in the world, I can call him and say, can you handle this? Can you take care of that? And can you do that? And that's the thing, when people have too much of like this hierarchy, and then it's like my assistant, or I got 7 people, who's really in charge when you're not in charge? Right. Like when you're on the bench, who's on the court playing as hard as you? And that was the key. And listen, as much as there are good stories, we don't want to hide the bad stories. There were times that Krystal and her team, they were fumbling. It was just like too many people and like people were messing up. But it wasn't until I think it was your brother stepped up and said, this is my team too, that made the difference. And anytime I see a really, really good team, there's one really key person that loves the business as much as the loan officer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually my cousin that was my cousin through marriage and that set up because he's a veteran. So he related everything mortgage to that. So it was like in the battlefield, we take care of our brothers, we take care of our people, and mortgages, we do the same. And I think he found a lot of satisfaction from his job that he didn't think he would have. So he got out of the military and joined. He actually joined Brian first and trained with him for, I said, go train with Brian. Like he's been doing it for 20 years, go sit with him, listen to him, and then, you know, do the same thing with me. Cause that's what you taught me, Kai, was have your people sit with you for 90 days so that they speak the same language, they explain things the same. And that is so crucial because if I get an off the wall client, it's like, well, John promised me this, this, and this. I'm like, no, because John doesn't talk like that. You know, like John talks how I talk, and of course has his own personality and his own way of explaining things, but like John knows the things to say and not to say. So yes, I think that is, again, you know, during fumbling, I will say that I feel like we still kept the customer really like they didn't really see the fumbling too much. Every now and then they would like, you guys keep asking me for the same pay stub or, you know, little things like that. And there's some things that kind of hurt my feelings because I'm like, dang it, this is a reflection on me and this hurts my pride. But finding someone, like you said, that loves it as much as you. And I think that comes with treating them as a team player as well. Like I have another girl on my team that she introduced me at an event as her boss. And I was like, we don't use that. And some of my other team members are like, no, Krystal's not your boss. She considers you a teammate, because I don't want that. We're like, I'm your boss, you know, I own you. Like, I feel like in this industry, you know, even changing companies are like, you can't take anyone with you. I mean, you don't own them. They're human beings. If they want to go somewhere else, let them go somewhere else. And I've just never had that attitude of like, I'm better than you. I own you. Like, I'm here to support you, mentor you, and you're here to support my business and my team. And you're here to support, I'm sorry, my clients on my team. You're here to support my clients, and we're here to do it as a team. And I just think having that mutual respect and that mutual understanding. And again, at the end of the day, the only thing that we're here to do is get the client to the closing table with a 5-star experience, period. That's it. So, you know, sometimes you have like ops versus sales, and it's like, I don't care what your job is. Like, the focus is the client. What does it take to get the client where they need to be? And in a way that makes them feel really, really good and they come back. Because I was all referral too. I didn't advertise. I've never bought a Zillow lead. I did like some marketing with an agent for like 2 months. I feel like those things for me don't work out. So they just aren't my style. I'm not opposed to that by any means, especially if I was a new loan officer. It's definitely the route I would go. Nothing wrong with paying for it. I just never have, because the goal has always been provide such a good experience that you get the loan of the mom, the dad, the sister, the brother. So really quick story of that is I had my, one of my agents I worked with the longest, and I consider him like my really good friend too. His wife's 40th birthday party was at this cool restaurant, and there was about 100 guests there. I did a loan for every single person in that room. Do you know how cool that was to walk into a room and be like, I know your credit score, I know your no, but literally I knew every person, and on like an intimate level. And even people I haven't talked to in years, they're like, it's Krystal, the money lady or whatever. And I knew them, and I remember details about them because those I'd worked with more one-on-one versus more having the team involvement. But that was such a cool feeling to walk into a room of that many people, and they all still remembered me from doing their house loan, like I said, 5 years ago.
Mike, there's something to say about just being aggressive too, right? I mean, you can tell she's just very aggressive with referrals and people that she knows. She's going to walk into a room and she's going to have a conversation with everybody at some point. I mean, let's face it. And Mike, you've probably posted this in MLO net how many times? If you're timid in selling, this might not be the business for you. You know,
well, I mean,
you got to ask everybody for business.
I was kind of joking last night, but I knew we had this call coming up, and I was watching a TikTok, and it was some sales guy, and he's like, oh, you just need to go make 2,000 phone calls and then you'll be a millionaire. I'm like, well, it's not quite that simple. But
well, yeah, that's working your cold network too much. She's working a direct warm network of everybody that she knows. She's creating service. And so everything is a warm connection. Everything is a warm lead. I just want to answer this question really quickly because Andrew typed this in chat. There's a website that we use. There's a service that we use called Wise Hire. And if you go to /performance coaching, there's actually like a 20% discount because they give discounts to my coaching clients. And what it is it allows you can post a job. So this was actually when I hired my admin. You basically post a resume, and then it handles all the incoming for you. So it sends it out to like 5 job boards, like Indeed, and like five other job boards. And so you get all of the resumes coming in one place, and it organizes it for you. And the reason why it says very good, excellent, very poor is it's matching up your criteria with them applying, and also it automatically dispersonality test them. So if I'm looking for a loan processor, if I'm looking for a senior loan processor, loan officer, it knows what personality type is going to match. And there's actually wizards for if you want to hire an MLO, an assistant or something like that, or a processor, you can pick it. It'll give you a template for the job description, and then you can just modify it. It'll tell you the personality tests. So anytime somebody applies, it does all that stuff for you. And so what happens is you get all these interviews and you filter them down, and then you just keep moving people on, you interview people, and it completely streamlines the process, and it gets you the personality test. It writes the ad for you. So you're not doing all the stuff that you don't know how to do, which is like writing the ad and posting it and doing the personality test on manual thing. It takes care of it. And it's like super cheap. I want to say it's like $120 a month for unlimited candidates, and you just subscribe until you don't need it anymore. Right. So for unlimited candidates, unlimited job posts, it's just like a one-time fee. So that's what we use to hire a lot of people. And that's what everybody in my coaching stable is used to hire people. So really great thing. So Krystal, transitioning to marketing, because we want to give this some time too. So you're a big VA, right? You're a big VA. So how did you really break through into getting yourself known as, and I kind of laugh when people say this, but I also applaud at the same time. How do you let people know that you're the #1 VA lender in Colorado with all the other #1 VA lenders in Colorado? But like, what did you do to create your brand with marketing and getting your name and your presence out there?
That's a good question. I would say first is I became very familiar with the VA loan because I started out at a company, a broker that did not offer VA loans. They only did conventional and, non-QM stuff. And so I saw a market for VA. I actually had a VA loan come to me and I didn't know how to do it. And I was like, okay, I probably should learn this. I just dove in. This is like back when you read the books, it wasn't online. And I just read all the guidelines and just became super familiar. And I started winning deals that way with just people giving bad information of, no, you can't use your VA again, or no, you can't use split entitlement, or no, the veterans can't be unmarried and 2 of them buy the house together. There's just a lot of misinformation. And I had an office location next to an Air Force base, and I would literally get walk-on business from the Air Force base. And so I kind of started there. And then that team that I had mentioned where I started branching out of state, that's why my numbers for the past couple of years have been heavy VA. They're in Scotsman's Guide, I'm #2 VA loan officer. #1's an actual branch. So I'll take it that I'm #1. But about 60% of my business is VA. And I think it's just understanding the product and the program. Colorado Springs is a very heavy VA market too. But again, a lot of my VA stuff was in those other states. And then it helps having veterans on the team, because I feel like that really helps with the client to connect. When they get a veteran on the phone, there's just that, there's that brotherhood there that I can't touch. There's also a level of understanding, like, for example, the PCS process. So Andrew is a veteran and he was on my team, and he would get a spouse, for example, who he explains it so good, because he's like, this girl's 20 years old. She just got married to this military guy. She's lived at home. She's moving from her little town of Ohio to go to Fort Drum. She's freaking out. Maybe they have a baby on the way, or they just had a baby. And he's like, the process of PCSing is not a normal move. For one, you're forced. You don't get to the choice. You don't know where you're going. You don't have anyone there. You're moving for a job blindly, nothing about the area. And so he was able to connect with them on a level that was just really cool, that I was able to say, hey team, like, listen to this, like, I understand where these people are coming from. And I've always said, meet people where they are. So I don't care if they're having an emotional breakdown, they're hysterical on the phone, let them do it, meet them where they are. And then another girl that was on my team, she's a Gold Star wife as well. And so she relates on a whole nother level, that military spouse too, because generally it's a spouse that calls us. I say generally, probably 80% of the time. And then we get 20% that it's the veteran. But, just being able to relate on that level, I think, is so important, and just really understanding that and having empathy to that. I think that's something that we kind of lose in this business sometimes. We're transactional instead of relational, and we forget that's a human being on the phone. But I think that, and then just again, word of mouth, just really doing a great job for the veteran, and they refer. Or I would say probably a few years ago, probably a third of my business was turn downs. because being at the company I was at, I learned a lot. I dove in a lot. Brian taught me a lot. And being able to just learn and get to the different level of knowledge was so crucial, to where I saved so many deals, and generally those agents stick with you. That was a
There's
really
lots to
long
unpack.
answer.
There's lots to unpack there. First of all, is that you're in
Sorry.
you're in 4 other non-local markets for VA, right? I mean, like I ask people a lot too, and Mike, I'm sure you get this question. It's like, well, are you in a VA market? And some people will say, no, I'm not in a VA market, but you can get into a VA market, right? That's one thing. And another thing too is like, I mean, even whether it's Alex or some people didn't serve in the military, but whether that's something that you embrace or whether it's team members that you bring on, you know, whatever market you want to relate to, it would help to have people on your team that can relate in those very personal conversations. And I would say this, and this is the theme. This is why I like VA so much out of any of the niches, because it's the one niche that education is mandatory. And when you have education equals marketing. It's really easy to market if you market education. That's it. You know what I mean? It's like, how much can you really market? Oh, give me a 780 credit score. You got a job and you can qualify. But if you're going through a VA process, especially with 100% financing, and I don't even know all the technical terms because I never did VA, but I mean, that's a whole education process. And then there's just attraction. And you're right. There's a brotherhood, there's a sisterhood of trust, especially if the person, your processor, your loan, you know, your LOA was a service member, right? And so you're going to get the referrals that way.
I mean, the things that Krystal is saying, I'm hearing a lot of other people that do a lot of VA loans say very similar things, that, you know, it starts with knowing the product. And a lot of people come to us and Veteran Mortgage Advisor and say like, oh, I want to learn the product, but they don't get excited learning the product. They get excited about like marketing and leads and stuff like that. And I keep telling them, guys, you got to kind of go backwards. You're not going to get all those things unless you're really good at the product. Number one, it's hard to talk about it when you don't know what you're talking about. And number two, like you said, Krystal, if you don't do a good job on service, or if your deals fall apart or don't close smoothly, you're making your battle so much harder. When the loan goes really, really, really smooth, that turns into, hey, I'm going to come back to your office. Hey, who else in your office needs help? Hey, who else do you know that needs me? And like you pointed out, I mean, I've said this a million times teaching classes. The veterans are your best customers ever, because they refer you so much, and they buy so many more houses, and they move so many more times than everybody else, that they just become awesome advocates of your brand. And you know, you just going above and beyond on the service level with all the things that you talked about. You know, I want to throw one question. I don't want to get too off track, but you know, I keep thinking about this for myself, and not all of us have the same lifestyle. Like for me, I struggle working weekends anymore because I kind of have joint custody kids and things like that. I mean, how big is your team? Who works weekends? How do you guys sort that out so that you're still giving the service levels, but you're not killing each other by working too many hours?
That's a great question. So there have been a few changes recently, but I'll tell you what the team typically looks like. So the way that it's been for the past few years is I had 2 junior loan officers, John and Andrew, and I had a really unique situation, but I don't want you guys to think that to do well with veterans that you have to have a veteran on your team. That's not necessarily true. It's learning the client. So learning the PCS process, learning the struggles, learning what they think about. And I'm not going on a tangent here, I promise. But also like if they're trying to decide, do I sell my house or keep my house? Educate them, walk them through that. What does that look like? What does that look like for equity for them? What does that look like for payment? I get veterans that I'm like, no, you're paycheck to paycheck. If that house floods, like that's going to put you in a bad spot. Like, no, I think it's best that you sell the house. And I'll tell them straight up why. You know, if you don't have X amount of reserves, you have no business having a rental property, because I don't want you to foreclose. I don't want to put you in a position. But we'll show them like, okay, you can take $60,000 and what you're going to make on the house, and you can go put it over here and invest it. Money market accounts right now are like 4%. But you also have a 2.75. The VA loan limit went up, so you still can go buy something 100% financing or close to it. Now you own a rental property. Let's start building that generational wealth for you and your family. Like, what does that look like? So having those conversations, like you guys are coming to you as a resource, like know your shit, like level up and educate them. Like they're coming to you for help. They don't know the answers. So you have to be that person. And honestly, like, if you're not, and you're not going to be that financial advisor to them, then maybe find something else, but that's another topic. So for my team, I did have a unique situation of having the veteran side, and then having, I have a gentleman named John who came from like wealth management for corporations. So he does really well with like, higher end loans, like doctor loans or all-in-one loans. And I don't mean higher end by money. I mean, people that they want that person who they feel like really smart talking to, right? And then you have like the first time home buyer that you can't have that same conversation. You have to be able to have a different conversation. So I had a unique opportunity with those two where I felt like one did really well with the veterans and the first time home buyers, and one did really well with the different professions, right? They both can blend, they both can work with whatever, but it was just a unique thing. So I had that. And then I had 2 LOAs. One was like a pre-processor, one was a condition gatherer. And then I had my processor, of course, which my processors don't collect conditions. They're the liaison between us and underwriting, basically. So then I'd have an LOA on the back end collecting conditions. And then I've always had some type of, like, Kai had me get a personal assistant, and that was cool for a while, but we can do a whole nother series on all the mistakes that I made and what not to do. By hiring the personal assistant, I got way too out of touch with stuff. So then when she left, it was like, I don't even know my passwords to stuff. It was not like I said, I can tell you what not to do. So that's basically it. And then now I've kind of revamped things. I've added loan officers, things like that. Definitely focusing more on loan officer growth, because again, I run into people that are like, I've been doing this for 3 years and nobody's ever taught me how to put in a grant. And I'm like, what? Like, so come on, let me help you. So that's kind of where I've shifted my focus, and I am going to start branching out a lot more into marketing. So get ready. But that's,
I mean, one theme that I see is I just think that Krystal knows her craft better than most people. I mean, there's just so many loan officers that just don't know loans, and they don't know.
That's really nice.
I mean, they're barely doing conventional, and imagine them going into VA or jumbo or anything else. You got to know your market. You got to know your loans. I mean, that would be like me focusing on marketing and sales and not getting better as a coach and not getting better. I mean, at the end of the day, my reputation is still going to build on, can I coach somebody, right? Down to the T at the end of the day. And I think that's what she's done. She's looking at herself as coaching. And so to kind of like close this off, I know that lately you've been doing a lot of work on bringing in loan officers, whether they're junior loan officers for you or independent loan officers, and you've put a big focus on helping develop them, like you said. So like, what are some of the things that you do to help develop your loan officers? And it sounds to me like some of your development isn't just, well, this is how you market, this is how you sell. You're actually developing, saying, no, you got to learn your product too. Like, what are you doing with some of the loan officers that you bring on right now?
So I'll preface this by saying I haven't done the things that I want to do because I've had some company changes. I've changed companies twice, like kind of back to back. So that was really rough. Don't recommend. And if you do, have a team to help you. But I do recommend actually find the good place for you, but make sure they have the things in place to help you actually transition. So I haven't been able to tap into it as much as I wanted to, but basically what I've been doing is just doing one-on-ones, like an hour of just like, here, let's just sit down. Let's go over your goals. Let me understand where your business is at. Where do you want your business to be? And here's the thing, if they're not coachable, don't waste your time. Because if they're not coachable, even though I was told I wasn't coachable, here I am, Kai, with you for 3 years. So if they're not coachable, you will burn yourself out. You will waste your time. Make sure they're coachable, make sure they're hungry, make sure they want it. Number one. Number two, I sit down with them and I do a one-on-one. What's your business plan look like? What do you want to do? Where are you? Where do you want to go? And then I kind of go around that. And honestly, I take all the stuff I learned from you, Kai, because I think I do like 3 classes a month with you, maybe 4. I think I do 4 with the tech one and the other ones. I take all of that and I condense it to what I think applies to that particular loan officer. And then I just say, this is what I recommend in your market. This is what I recommend that you do. It's just amazing to me though, because this is such an important industry and we can all get into it overnight and not have a clue what we're doing. And it's such a detriment to ourselves because I feel like it takes you so long to grow. So I do the one-on-one and then I do a bi-weekly coaching for an hour, and I just go over whatever the topic is for that day. I kind of just copy you, Kai.
Like you're the coach. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. I talk about this because, I talk to a lot of branch managers. I talk to a lot of team leaders, and they struggle developing their loan officers. And it's because they don't have a structure for developing their loan officers. They don't have the weekly meetings. They don't have the Tuesday, Thursday pipeline meetings with their processor. They don't like you have to run everything extremely structured, and like you're running your team like it's a coaching company. There was a post, actually, it was actually an MLO net, it was anonymous, right, the other day, Mike, that somebody said, I'm thinking about changing companies because what is the expectation of what you can expect from your sales manager, because I'm not getting any support from my sales manager. And everybody kind of chimed in, well, a lot of places there is no support. They bring you on, they make 40 bips off you, and there's no support. And here we are, we're trying to make this professional commitment. I mean, Mike, you run MLO Net, you give more support than sales managers as well too. And there's not an MLO Net membership, right? And so it's just that constant caring, and it's constant setting a bar, setting a standard for, I need people to be up at this level, and I need them to be that good, because when they're good, I think you've already drank the Kool-Aid. Like, look what happens to referrals. Look what happens to realtors loving you. Look what happens to title. Like, when you have good marketing. So when we talk about marketing is just not the video that you talked about. Marketing is not just the advertisement, the video. Good marketing is word of mouth. Good marketing is word of mouth. And when you have good marketing, remember this phrase, when you have good marketing, it eliminates the need for great sales.
Mm-hmm.
Great marketing sells you before you walk into the room. And so what you've done is you've built marketing based on reputation, based on what the industry is going to say about you, based on what clients are going to say about you, based on what the veterans are going to say about you, the title agent is going to say about you. That's your marketing right there. But it starts with having like a really great product and really great service.
And knowing your stuff. Like, it's not hard to read guidelines. So when I have a loan officer who's like, hey, I don't have a lot going on, what could I do with my time right now? I'm like, go read guidelines. Literally read the handbook. I used to have the FHA handbook downloaded on my phone. And when I had free time, when I was early to an appointment or I was at the DMV, I would just read the guidelines, because you'll find stuff in there. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do this. Like, it's not that hard to educate yourself. And quite frankly, it's your responsibility. If you're giving financial advice, you better know what you're talking about. And that's where I get really frustrated and a little passionate, because I'm like, know your stuff. And so what's been cool and unique with my team is like, the guys are starting to grow and they're starting to get their relationships, and I'm all for it. I'm like, cool. Like, yeah, it sucks if I lose you on my stuff, but you know what? At the end of the day, like, you're a damn good loan officer. You deserve to go out and get your own business. And they had the advantage of getting to do, 1,000 loans in a couple of years. And so now they had that backing, like, they're going to do the business right. So that's my passion. My focus right now is shave 10 years off of people's career, because it did take me that long to really like understand the business and to really get it going. And then now my focus again is just teaching them, but also don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want you guys to think like you need to go close 91 loans in a month. Like, that was not realistic. And I was miserable. I had no life. I feel like I missed out on my kids for an entire year. So I am selfish with my time. So like you mentioned the weekends, that's why we rotate weekends, because when I have my boys on the weekends, don't call me. Like, I mean, you can call me, but like, I'm not gonna spend 2 hours working when I feel like I have limited time. So it's finding that balance, but the only way you're going to find it is by having a good team and having the processes and the systems. And once I like learned that again from you, and it's funny because Michael, we've known each other for years. We used to talk back in the day when you were at that one company. I don't know if we need to go there, but it's so cool to see how this has all come and evolved, and like how much you've done has been amazing too. And I've learned so much from both of you. So tap into these resources. If you can't afford coaching right now, put it on your list to do, because I think it changed my business and it changed my life. And then educate yourself. Like, MLO Network has so much to offer. I wish I would have had that 10 years ago. Somewhere to even ask an underwriting question. Like, I'd be retired if I would have had the resources that I have.
Somebody asked me a question. Somebody asked me a question.
That you have now, Krystal, is that you go to hire people, and they've already done some training in MLO Net before you hire them. So you're
it would be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody asked me yesterday, how do you fight against builders? And I literally said, scour MLO Net and another board, I think it was Mortgage Coach. And I said, just search the term builder, and there's going to be at least 27 threads with people giving their advice. Write them all down and just start attacking those strategies. I mean, all the knowledge is there. You just have to put yourself in a place that you're lazy. You have to educate yourself. I mean, you can go down rabbit holes. I'll tell you from a coaching point of view, I know the rabbit hole of how to work with somebody who's ADHD. There's a way to do it, because I went down that rabbit hole.
I figured out I can teach you.
I figured out the gene morphing and all that stuff, whatever it is. But I mean, like, there's like an answer to everything, there's the knowledge behind everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, if I had to kind of like sum up today, it's putting in the effort to put in that knowledge, that education, and really, being proud of your craft.
Yeah, you don't need a degree to do this, and you have the opportunities to make more than doctors who go to school for 8 and 10 years. There's no excuse to not educate yourself. And just, if you want to be on top and you want to be a top producer and you want to provide the value to your clients and get the referral business, educate yourself. Just put in the work and educate yourself.
Her counterpart, which is one of my collaborative coaches now, is Denise Donahue. And Denise Donahue did 600 units last year. And everybody looks at her, everybody looks at her social, everybody looks at her video. But at the end of the day, Denise gets all the business that she did because she's the mortgage nerd. Her branding is she knows every single thing about loans. Like, she's a nerd when it comes to loans. And that knowledge and that branding is ultimately going to outpace, any great overly marketing sales advertisement. You just have to be really good, but you got to also follow up. You can't lose track of people. And that's why I say when you're building your team, whoever that right-hand person is, they have to like stay up late at night because they remember that somebody forgot to follow up with somebody just like you. If there's a second person that worries about your business as much as you, that's when you're really going to win.
So this is awesome. You guys are just,
we hit 40 minutes, by the way.
We did. You guys are nailing all the important points. I know, we don't try to do these things to sell events or sell coaching or whatever, but Kai, you've got an exceptional series coming up and there's another round of it starting tomorrow. I sat on the calls myself, the Evolve or Die series. Some of you guys have seen this posted or email about it. And I've kind of been calling it must see TV because it's some of the mind shift stuff that you mentioned a few times today as well about doing things that might have worked in the past that aren't working as well now in getting your mindset the right way to move forward. And it's lessons that you've learned from working with folks like Krystal and Denise and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. So the website Evolve or Die webinar, and you can use the code MLONet. It's always going to show you whatever the next one is. So if you go now, it's going to show March 8th. And if you go there after March 8th, it's going to be the next one. But the whole thing about Evolve or Die is that it's not just about getting people to the next level of being a loan officer, but the reality is that we're having a shift in the market. Mm-hmm. We're down from 20 million of inventory down to like 2 million in inventory or 4 million in inventory. We have a shift when it comes to the generational change. So not only are consumers changing the way they consume, but your competition is changing. I mean, a 28 to 30-year-old Gen Z loan officer is going to compete against you with video marketing, Instagram, and this whole social thing, like natural. They were just born with a smartphone in their hand. And so how do you evolve or get left behind? And so really what I talk about is evolving into the next 20 years. But I think what's more importantly is like, how do you not burn out? I think that business can be fun if you look at it like building a business. I mean, Krystal's had a lot of fun building her business, but if you're waking up every single day, hitting your call list and making your 50 phone calls day after day after day, and cold calling day after day after day, if you have a sales only business, if you're not building your marketing, your branding, your education, your service, your team, even hiring veterans and things like that, that's when it becomes really fun. So we all have to evolve. Otherwise, this next market, the next 5 to 10 years is gonna spit everybody out who doesn't evolve.
Yep.
I love it, dude. I love it. It's good. And like you said, there's a lot of different ways you can go and it's not, like you said, it's not just marketing or it's not just building.
It's just showing people the bigger picture. Yeah.
Well, you're 100% right though. Like I talk to a lot of LOs all over the country every single day, including my own team, my own company. And I always hear these stories about like how somebody lost a deal. And man, I always come back to them and I say, well, you know whose fault it is. And they say, they always want to blame somebody else. I say, no, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Because your marketing, your selling, your relationship building or whatever wasn't good enough to keep that customer with you. So they went somewhere else and they had a really terrible, horrible experience. And now you're over here trying to sort out what went wrong.
I mean, the entire industry can't shift to win, but all of MLO net can shift and win. You know what I mean? That's the key. We want to be the winners. Let the other people lose, right?
Just the 60-some people watching
That's
this.
it. That's it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I hear you guys. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm going to message you, Chris. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more. Maybe we'll do another one of these soon. So you guys,
I would love to.
Yeah, and Chris, and Krystal's very, very open. You know what I love about Krystal is like I've actually sent a lot of whether it's coaching clients or random loan officers to her for help. And so she's going to leave her line open for anybody that has questions about building their business because I've even given people, she's like, give me their phone number. I'm going to call them right now. And then I talk to the person, they're like, Krystal's like called me 3 times, helped me build their business. And so, but that's also like the mentality that you have. And so, I mean, sorry to volunteer you, Krystal, but I know Krystal's very open to help MLO net as well too. So you guys can figure that out.
Yeah, no, I love that. You can share my phone number. I'll share it here. And then if you guys have anything, maybe text me, we can set up a time. I'm terrible at Facebook Messenger, but there's my personal cell. And you guys are welcome to share that with anyone that may not see it here. But yeah, if you guys have any like one-on-one questions or you want to set up 15 minutes or something just to chat about